Welcome to the Ecommerce Marketing Podcast, the highly rated digital marketing podcast that provides weekly digital marketing tips and strategies from some of the world's top digital marketers and e-commerce entrepreneurs that will help you take your digital marketing to the next level. Sit back and enjoy this power-packed episode hosted by Arlen Robinson, who is an e-commerce entrepreneur and digital marketing expert with over 20 years of experience. Hey, e-commerce marketing podcast listener. Are you looking to increase traffic and sales to your website? You can do this by launching your own affiliate program. Just visit getosi.com and sign up for a free trial today. That's getosi.com. Now get ready to hear from your e-commerce marketing expert of the week as they drill down to give you details on marketing strategies that can help grow your business.
Welcome back to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast, everyone. My name is Arlen, and I am your host. And today we've got a very special guest, Jess Cervellon, who is a fractional CMO for various e-commerce brands. She's become one of the go-to experts in creator brand strategy and end-to-end customer experience. Welcome to the podcast, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to nerd out about this subject.
Awesome. Yes, and I'm super excited to talk to you. It's definitely a hot topic. We're going to be talking about personalized email marketing, all the ins and outs of how you personalize email marketing campaigns, why you should do it, and just lessons learned. And I know you've learned a lot of lessons in the battlefield, so to speak, working with all of these different e-commerce brands. And so I know you have a pretty exciting job because you're able to deal with different brands and see what's working for certain industries, certain niches, and what's not working. And so I know that really makes you that expert. And so I'm really excited to dive deep into that. But before we do get into all of that, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background and how you did get into what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I think like the TLDR version is I actually went to art school, and I think that's really relevant because I am a very creative thinker when it comes to business and strategies and like thinking outside the box. For many years after art school, I was like in a lot of various like customer service, customer success, customer experience roles across B2B like SaaS companies as well as various industries in that. But most recently, in the last couple of years, I had an opportunity to work at Feastables. It's a Mr. Beast snack company. And if anybody doesn't know who Mr. Beast is, he's the world's biggest YouTube influencer star. And a lot of the things that I've learned in e-com marketing in particular come from my time spent at Feastables. And I've now carried that on into these other brands that I'm helping. And I'm doing a lot of fractional CMO or CXO work, depending on what the brand needs across health, wellness, and apparel.
Okay. Awesome. Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. And I think where I want to kind of dive in is with what you're currently doing now with the various e-commerce brands that you're working with. What have you seen that works across the board as far as effective strategies for personalizing, email content, and that has, directly impacted the engagement of the various brands that you've been working with?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, like for me, at the heart of it all, I'm a customer experience gal, right? Like it's all about customer centricity. So, and how I apply that into email marketing, or SMS marketing, just marketing strategies as a whole, is really understanding at what point of the customer's journey I'm in that I'm actually talking to them. And I think that's like a very tactical, effective strategy that anybody can like utilize, right? And so, what I've seen by personalizing the experience on like where they are in their journey, we've seen an increase in customer engagement because what you're doing is you're leveraging where they are in their journey, but you're also able to like give them dynamic content that actually tailors to their overall experience. And it's all based off of like what their preferences and behavior are in that portion. I think, that's like one piece of it, like the first pillar. I think the other side of it too is when we talk about personalization, how are you going to jump out of somebody's inbox? How are they going to actually open that email, right? So it's implementing personalized subject lines, recommendations that are based on maybe their past purchases, or recommendations on like where they are again in that journey that's going to capture their attention and drive higher open rates. And then lastly, I love testing, A/B testing. Don't get stagnant. Test everywhere you can. Try to implement A/B testing in anywhere that you can, because what that's going to do is fine tune your approach and help you to deliver content that actually resonates with your audience.
Gotcha. Those are some great strategies. And a couple things I want to kind of hone in is what you last said about testing. Let's say I'm an e-commerce brand and I am, maybe let's say in the startup phase, or, maybe a year or so into the business. I don't have a large customer base. My email list is fairly small, and I'm trying to do some things that are going to resonate with my audience and in my prospects. And I've heard two different things about testing, A/B testing. Does it make sense to do A/B testing if you're dealing with a small volume of subscribers? Like, let's say you're dealing with maybe, let's just say a couple thousand subscribers in your
Yeah.
list. Does it still make sense?
I think it does still make sense, because I think you can do A/B testing even on like a smaller scale of just testing even subject lines, right?
Okay.
Like subject lines is something really simple. So like, let's say you're selling a t-shirt, right? And you're like, I don't know, maybe you're a t-shirt line, right? And it's like the newest design, right? I think there's different ways that you can like hype that up, right? It's like, oh, X brand, or I wouldn't say X brand, like maybe it's like, Jess, guess what? We just dropped like the newest design in your favorite t-shirt. And then like the other test to that would be maybe not even putting Jess in the subject line, right? Maybe it's just saying, open now for 10% off the newest design. What, like, I don't know. I know those are like two different scenarios, but my point is though, is like they're varying different subject lines that are going to speak to the behavior of your customer. So it's like
Yeah.
you're talking about personalizing one, whereas like the other one, you're driving an incentive to open that email, right? Like, and then that'll help
Mhm.
you decide whether or not, is it the personalization that they care about most, or is it the discount that they care about most, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's like so simple. It's so easy to do. And I mean, like, sorry, now I told you're gonna get me nerding out about this, but like, if you're even struggling to come up with different subject lines, pop it into ChatGPT,
Yeah.
like, and then like ask ChatGPT to give you 5 different ones and try 2 out of the 5, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to hear, because I mean, it just really comes to, no, there's no subscriber base size that's too small to do tests, because even if it's small, you're still dealing with a subset of your ideal customer. Typically, you're
Hmm.
dealing with people that, depending of course how you got them, but most likely if they've opted in from, anything on your website, maybe from your social media campaigns, obviously they had some type of interest in your brand, and so they kind of check the box as that kind of ideal customer, or they have at least some type of interest. So it makes sense that
Yeah.
testing even on a small scale
Yeah.
will work, and it's worthwhile and worth doing. As far as data is concerned, and making these personalization decisions based on what you've learned from customers, there's always a fine line these days when we're talking
Hmm.
about getting customers data and making personalized campaigns based on this. How do you do that without actually infringing on privacy concerns, because it's definitely a touchy subject these days.
I mean, it's definitely a touchy subject. And I think what's really important is that your customer's privacy should be paramount to any of your strategies that you're
Right.
implementing, right? And it's like you have to be able to respect that. I think what I have found at like Feastables is Feastables specifically because you're dealing with such a high volume of customer that also interacts with like the influencer side too, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, and not only that, you're also dealing with, like, truthfully, you're dealing with children, you're dealing with
Yeah.
kids, right? And it's like that's even a higher level of privacy that you have to understand. And then, even for if your brand is not necessarily just selling to children, right? It's like I'm trying to just emphasize like the importance of like why you have to respect your customers' privacy. So the same things that I like to do is like, we definitely like to survey. We apologies. Sorry, I'll start over.
No problem.
Phone rang. So, working, whether it's like Feastables, whether it's Fat Milk or Taste Salud, like the other brands that I'm like working with, right? I think it's really important to respect privacy, and maybe even if we're not dealing with children all the time, right? Um, I think that my approach to this is anonymizing a lot of things, aggregating data that I can create a generalized customer segment is important. So it's like you're not diving super deep into like the demographics. Um, like you don't like there there's just a lot of different laws, right? So it's like you don't want to find out, like you don't want to like accidentally survey a child and like ask for their email address, right? Or their some demographics, right? So it's like you have to be very generalized in like the information that you're acquiring. And then how do I like protect myself from those things, right? Is I'm constantly analyzing my segments to like really get down to like the nitty gritty. Is something like fake data? Is something like to something not really resonate in this segment? And then that helps me to continue crafting personalized emails without compromising individual privacy as much as you can. Like you're only as good as the amount of the data that you're getting, right? But like
Mhm.
I think by anonymizing it and aggregating and constantly like kind of going through like the sweeping, right,
Mhm.
and cleaning up things, that's going to help you protect yourself, and then continue down the path of being able to craft personalization. I think also it just like all depends on like how many resources you have and like what you can do. But I also think implementing a robust data encryption, ensuring compliance with data protection regulations is like really important. I mean, this subject, like I know I'm nerding out about it, but like you have to be so careful. So you constantly have to be like looking through things, sweeping through things, keeping yourself abreast to like what the regulations are on like coming out on the market. Like they change every single day, but you like no matter if you're a tiny brand, a big brand, you should be holding yourself to the highest standards when it comes to privacy.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, especially about if you have a brand and you have products that or can be marketed to children. It's touchy there. You have to be very careful. I hadn't really thought about that, but you're totally right as far as like what you're capturing, their email addresses, and phone numbers, text messaging, all of
Mhm.
that. It's you got to be very careful.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah. And I think you can still have fun. Like I
Mhm.
definitely think you can still have fun, but I think that's my last point of it though, is that you need to stay abreast to like what is the regulations on the market. So like for instance, right? I know we're talking a lot about email, but even SMS has the
Yeah,
most stringent compliance, right? Like
yeah, it
not
does.
even just like data privacy, it also has compliance and like when you're sending things, right?
Yeah.
And I've actually have seen this, like a brand that I was doing consulting for. Um, it was really interesting. Like, I came on and they were like, "Oh, can you like come look at like our SMS marketing?" And they sent a text message, and it was like after 8 p.m. Right? It was like after 8 p.m. And I forget like the specifics of like the compliance, right? But like after, I believe it's either after 8 or 9, there's quiet hours
Yeah.
in SMS compliance, right? So then they were like, well, why didn't this send? And I'm like, well, your phone number, even though you live in California and you're like on the West Coast, your
Yeah.
phone number is actually an East Coast number, so that's why you're not getting it, right?
Yeah.
So again, I know we're like going a little deeper than just privacy, but this is my exact point though, right?
Mhm.
Ensuring you're constantly up to speed on like what compliancy looks like in whatever channel you're in like whether that's data protection, whether that's these SMS compliance, right? Like, right, making sure you have the right language on your website or on your pop-ups is so important. And it's an integral part of like email and SMS marketing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm a little bit familiar with SMS as well, and we kind of look on our end here. at OSI Affiliate Software, we kind of looked into doing some things, and then when we saw all of the regulations, I was like, "Whoa, yeah, there's a lot of things you have to be compliant with
Yeah.
as far as doing that." Like you said, the time of sending, you have those quiet hours, and then you've got to be sure people are able to easily opt out. So yeah, you got to be careful. Now going back to email and personalization,
Mm.
when a brand gets these things going, let's say they've got a fairly effective personalization campaign going, and how do you measure, like what are some key metrics that you use to measure the success? Of course there's a conversion rate, click-through
Mhm.
rates and conversions and things like that, but are there any other metrics that you typically use to say, okay, this was a good campaign, we need to keep doing it, or we need to double down on it? What have you
Yeah.
seen?
Yeah, so definitely CTR, click-through rates and conversion rates. Like, I mean, listen, I care about those things, right? But I
Yeah.
also really care about like what my open rates are. I
Mm-hmm.
also look at like my spam complaint levels too,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like and for better or worse, I'm a design junkie. Like, I love a good design email, and sometimes like text-based emails are the only ones that get through. But like understanding my spam compliance rates is going to help me walk that fine line between, should I do this text or should I do this a design email? Like, you know what I mean? Like, overall, right? So like those are like the things that I care about from like a very, I can measure that, I can get a metric based off of that. But
Yeah.
then the other side of it too is like, I really want to measure engagement levels, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I really want to measure like engagement levels. And like, you would actually be really surprised the amount of people, once you start personalizing your emails, the amount of people that actually respond back to them. Or, if I'm like, maybe I'm not just always sending like a upsell email or like a campaign email about like a new drop. Maybe I'm actually sending an email about like, hey, how are you? Or, and I
Right.
know it's like I'm simplifying it, but like
Yeah.
a simple email of like actually trying to talk to my audience.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually want to know like how many people are responding to that? How many people are, how many people are actually engaging in it? And I don't think there's like a way that you can put a specific metric on that,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that it's very interesting to look at. And I know, again, we're talking about email, but also that applies to SMS as well. I also think that it's not just about like the amount of money that you're getting. I think it's also like plays a part into customer retention and loyalty building.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I like what you said about, those campaigns that you're not pushing information, you're not trying to sell, but you're just trying to see how somebody is, or you're
Hmm.
just, and I've been on these lists where I've gotten these campaigns emailed to me, and as a brand, you do have to be conscious of what's going on in the world, because yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of times, if let's say there's like a major event or a disaster going
Hmm.
on, yeah, you do have to be thoughtful as a brand, and not just
Yeah.
always try to push your products at
Yeah.
certain times when, we know, like right now, supposedly there's maybe a recession, there may not be a recession, but the bottom line is there's a lot of people struggling. Inflation is super high, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
people just trying to make ends meet. And so I think even in times like this, you do have to be, kind of cognizant of that, be respectful of what it is that you're pushing, is,
Yeah.
given the climate, financial climate that people are in, unfortunately. And I've had this conversation before. Fortunately, some of the big brands, it almost, and I've seen this in emails where, I've gotten these emails where they're saying, they're raising their costs, and there's no justification, they're raising their
Hmm.
fees, and some of the major brands do this. And
Hmm.
I understand, as a business, you've got to make profits, you got to, and especially if you're a public company. I know, of course, these companies have pressure from their board and all of
Yeah.
their investors, they got to meet certain goals, and
Yeah.
I get that, but I think at the end of the day, you still have to be respectful of the financial climate, and there's certain ways I think to do it,
Yeah.
especially if you're talking about increase in fees and things like that, and announcing
Yeah.
that via email. So
Yeah. I feel like it can go like we could go super deep in it, because I think that I think you're absolutely right. Like, at the end of the day, like, we live in a consumerism world. You know what I mean? And so whether there's inflation or not, like people are still going to buy things, right? But they're going to be more methodical and thoughtful about like the things that they're buying.
Yes.
So, I don't go out and like spend like just to go get like a t-shirt just because I want a t-shirt anymore. Like, do I actually need I keep using apparel as my example. Maybe let's back over there. Let's not back over there. Let's say I want to go buy like protein powder, for instance,
Mhm.
right? That's kind of a luxury. Like, to be honest with you, protein powders and like for workouts is kind of a luxury. And like I'm thinking of like brands like Ghost. And the reason I say that is because I actually have this in front of me right now. um,
Okay.
but right, like I'm like thinking through like, okay, what is the reason why I specifically want to buy that product, right? What is the reason I specifically want to buy that product? Like I have multiple different choices in front of me, but why do I want to spend the extra money to buy Ghost as a product rather than buying the cheap knockoff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then I think that that's like that's yeah, this is why like engagement is also so important, to not only just like send emails that are always like slanging the stuff. It's also about educating your customer too. So I purchase Ghost because I'm so educated by that product that I'm going to be more inclined to go and purchase Ghost protein powder than I would
Yeah.
be the cheaper version, right? Because I'm more bought into the story of Ghost, of the products that they produce. So like that's so my point is that like it's about loyalty building, but it's also about educating your customer to like make the right choice for your brand. That's my
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, exactly. I get that. Now, as a fractional CMO, you've of course dealt with a lot of different brands, a lot of companies. I'm sure you've kind of seen it all, what works, what doesn't work. Can you discuss some of the challenges that you've
Mhm.
seen when you've been trying to implement personalized email marketing, and what are some things that you've done to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is that every brand is different. Everybody is different, right? Especially in like the fractional space. Like I'm dealing with like health, wellness, I'm dealing with CPG, apparel, like each of those audiences are completely different. So I think that what's really important is spending the time to get to know your customers' personas and don't always assume that it's the same. So that's like one challenge for sure. Is like, okay, and it's very cut and dry, right? Like understand the audience, understand their needs and wants. But then I think second thing though, and this is actually something that we kind of already talked about, but I think it's very relevant in this conversation. But like at festivals, for instance, like doing personal campaigns and knowing that this audience is children, like is a lot of children, and you have data privacy things,
Mhm.
is like is I wouldn't say an issue, but like you have to like skate a fine line, right? So and again, I know this goes back to like the question that we've already asked before, but I cannot emphasize it enough. Like when you're talking about personalizing email marketing, it's understanding your persona to a T, and it's constantly doing sweeps of data and like redefining your segmentation, like
Mhm.
constantly redefining your segmentation, constantly understanding like what those audiences are that you're actually talking to, so that like it actually hits. Because you can get to a point too where you over personalize even.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
like so I think it's even establishing, a balance of like segmenting your customers more effectively by like understanding who they are, where they are in that journey, and if you're even segmenting to the right audience, because you could be dealing with children.
Yeah, yeah, I got it. Yeah, that's interesting. Or I've never thought of it that way. As far as a mistake that you could make, as far as over personalizing, you don't really think that okay, you can an email campaign can be too personalized. But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think if something is over personalized, it can have almost the same effect of an email not being personalized at all. Because I think in that case, it would come off as almost being too kind of fake. If you're
Yeah,
pulling in too much information about the customer, it's just like, all right, it could
yeah,
seem like you're going a little bit overboard with it. So yeah, I get
yeah.
it.
So it's a fine line. It's like I want to know you, I want to call you by your first name,
Right.
I want to know your journey, right? But like it's really like a psychology that you have to
Yeah.
get into.
Yeah, for sure. Now, with the brands that you've been working with, and you're of course in the space, what are some of the emerging trends that you foresee in personalization? as we all know, technology is advancing at a pace like no other. And
Yeah.
so, what are some things that you've seen, and what are things that you're doing to prepare for these types of changes?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing, and I mean, this is like a trend that's been happening since like last year, right? Is a lot of AI. It's a lot of like the hyper personalization using AI, right? Like there's so many tools out there to help with analytics and reporting and all these things, and your segmenting and even in your copywriting. So I think it's like to prepare like on the AI piece, it's understanding AI and understand and like getting to a fine balance of it too, because it's like you don't want to over AI yourself and like dehumanize your experience, right? So I think that, I mean, that's one big call out. And then I think the other thing that we're seeing so much more of is interactive content. And what I mean by that is I'm seeing it's not just like, oh, I put a GIF in this, or oh, I made this like this really dope like image. Like it's actually in like using tools like Spellbound to make your what Spellbound does is it's this tool that helps kind of like bring your emails to life, and it gives you the ability of like in an email itself, like if, let's say if you want to survey a customer, right, you can like have them take the survey directly in the email without them actually leaving that channel. And I think that that's really interesting, and I think we're going to see more and more of like the trend of keeping a person in a specific channel rather than like clicking a button and then going somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I would like to see more doubling down on that, because I come again from like the customer experience space, right? Like I care about the user's experience, and I want to like make that experience as frictionless as possible, right? So then like, because like think about it, if I click out of an email to go to a website, like the chances of losing you are so much
Yeah,
more likely, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then lastly, I think there's just like more of an increased emphasis on user generated content,
Mhm.
UGC. I think that social proof is so important for like you selling your brand, personalizing your brand, is like showing real people actually utilizing it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I see it also on my end with these advancements in email and email technology, with allowing people to do so much more in email without having to go to their site. These days, there's so much that you can embed into it, from being able to click to purchase, to do certain things, survey
Hmm.
people within emails,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah, and it all comes down to making an ideal customer experience and frictionless experience. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, we're just going to start seeing a lot more of that. Well, Jess, as we get ready to wrap things up, wanted to see if you could share your top 3 pieces of advice to effectively engage with your audience. People can effectively engage with their audience using personalized emails.
Yeah. One, first pillar, understand your audience. One, like 100%, like understand their preferences, their behaviors, their needs. Where are they in the journey? Two, you can start small. You can test. You can make iterations of things. Like you don't always have to be like, this is the end all be all. Like A/B test things, right? Like figure out what works with your audience, analyze that performance, and then make business decisions based off of that. Like it's okay to start small, test, and iterate.
Gotcha.
And then third, just kind of like the theme of it all, prioritize data privacy and consent straight up,
Mm,
because
yeah.
that's what's going to help you have like very clean list and not get you into any trouble.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Those are some awesome tips. I think it's definitely going to go a long way for our listeners and our viewers. We definitely appreciate having you on. And lastly, before we do let you go, I always like to close things out so our audience can get to know you a little bit better. If you don't mind sharing one closing fun fact about yourself that you think we'd be interested to know.
My fun facts are I ride motorcycles, and I have about a 95% of my body is tattooed.
Okay. Wow.
Which are not any,
95%.
yeah, which is like nothing to do with email marketing, but I think it's an interesting thing to share.
Gotcha. Those are some great fun facts. Definitely ride motorcycles, and 95% of your body is tattooed. Okay, that's good stuff. I think that's going on one of the top lists of my all-time fun facts. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, Jess. Lastly, before we let you go, if you don't mind sharing the best way for our audience to get a hold of you if they want to pick your brain any more about personalized email marketing.
Yeah, definitely. You can reach out to me. I'm really active these days on LinkedIn. So just Jess Cervellon. And we'll put it in the show notes how to spell my last name. I treat LinkedIn like it's my Twitter space now. And also, you can reach my website at jesscervellon.com.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll definitely have that link in the show notes as well as your social handles. So it's been awesome talking to you, Jess. We really appreciate having you on the E-commerce Marketing Podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the E-commerce Marketing Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and share it with everyone you know. Are you looking to take your digital marketing to the next level but are tired of weeding through countless YouTube videos with unproven and untrusted marketing strategies? Well, we have the answer for you. The More Sales Every Month online digital marketing course. In this information-packed course, you will learn effective keyword research, link building, content marketing, and much more to attract and convert your site visitors into paying customers. Just go to moresaleseverymonth.com and sign up today for a low one-time fee. In addition to this power-packed course, if you would like to get access to a growing repository of digital marketing articles, PDFs, and ebooks, check out getosi.com/resources and opt in to get full access to our library of priceless marketing information to help you take your digital marketing to the next level.